I'm not, please, let me finish. It's my case. It is my case, my lord, let me finish.
Nigeria's political atmosphere is no stranger to controversy, but the events of November 20th, 2025 added a fresh layer of debate to the ongoing conflict between government authority and activism.
I must temper justice with mercy. The court is moved by chapter 23, verse 23 of Matthew, in the book of Matthew, to the fact that, who unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithes of mint and anise and cumin, and as committed the weightier matter of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. This you ought to have done, particularly, and most.
Omoyele Sowore, a well-known journalist, publisher of Sahara Reporters, and former presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, has once again positioned himself at the center of national attention. His critics often call him a troublemaker, while supporters regard him as one of the few fearless voices challenging state power.
Anybody who's advising government in Nigeria is the enemy of government. Government of Nigeria don't listen to advice. Otherwise, ChatGPT could have advised them that this case is not going anywhere. Just a prompt on ChatGPT or Grok 4 on Twitter would have advised them that this is not going to go anywhere, no matter how well it is packaged, no matter how well the propaganda is pushed. And look at where we are today in Nigeria. Look at where we are. Nigeria is in the throes of some of its worst security situation, and this is what we are wasting our time doing. You know, we have 35 Christians at the time that we are being accused of persecution of Christians in the bush, attacked by terrorists who were live streamed. You have 25 female students, Muslims, also in the bush with terrorists. You have an army general who has just been murdered by terrorists. You are not focused on that. You are trying Nnamdi Kanu because they carried a microphone to say that he wants Biafra. It's not the only evidence they have in this court. Is the microphone that they found with him when he was arrested in Lagos, and his underwear, top and bottom. There is no evidence of a gun or an RPG. He was not found with police uniforms. Whereas in Katsina, someone killed an assistant commissioner of police, kept his uniform and wore the uniform to a peace conference, a so-called peace conference. And nothing is done about it. They bring their magazines and their AK-47s and their anti-aircraft guns to meetings. You can't do anything about them, but it's the guy who wears a nice Fendi and a microphone and says, we want justice. 10 years. You can't figure it out. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Problems, one of which is the kidnapping, what is known as the extraordinary rendition of Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya. You cannot cure that. You cannot cure the absence of evidence. You cannot cure every other problem you brought upon yourself in this case from day one. And that's what we have told them. And in general, because this is also foundational to Nigeria, Nigeria is in search of unity, they claim. Nigeria is in search of nationhood because it has never become a nation. If you want to make that happen, you do justice to all the components of Nigeria. You don't discriminate against somebody because his name is somebody you don't like, or because his religion is what you can't stand, and then you expect the country to be united. That is not going to happen. So, in doing this, you know, we're also encouraging them to have the national healing that can bring about national unity, since they love unity very much. But there can never be unity without justice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Finally, if you will say a word, maybe a final piece of advice to government, if they will listen to you, what would that be?
And also, we'll wait and see what they will do. But we said that today is an opportunity for Nigeria to rewrite its history and to redraw his map of justice. Today is a make or mar day of Nigeria, and I'm not exaggerating. So, but I hope that common sense has prevailed, especially considering the period that we are in view of the failure, the glaring failure of the government. I hope they must have spoken to the judge either to postpone whatever he planned to do towards Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, or generally they just call up the trial from today.
If Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is convicted, what message does he send to someone like you?
It doesn't matter, you know, they have already made up their mind. No, the conviction of Mandela did not stop another Mandela. Wow. The conviction, the killing of Malcolm X did not stop freedom fighters. The killing of Martin Luther King did not stop people from fighting for justice. So conviction of Nnamdi Kanu is not going to stand. That won't be much I can tell you. But even if they do, they are the ones who will reverse it themselves. It's as simple as that.
Okay, sir. Would you like...
Regardless of opinion, one thing has remained consistent. Sowore never backs down from confronting the government. Following the shocking sentencing of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Sowore made a prediction that has sparked reactions across the country. He suggested that the federal government might one day grant him a presidential pardon, just as they have done for certain convicted individuals, some with severe criminal records. His statement did not sound like mere sarcasm. Instead, he framed it as part of what he described as Nigeria's political pattern of selective justice. According to him, the government appears to punish political dissidents, those who question authority, expose corruption, or mobilize citizens, while granting forgiveness to criminals who either have political connections or who can serve political interests. Sowore insinuated that if this trend continues, someone like him, who has been repeatedly prosecuted for activism and cyber-related allegations, could eventually be pardoned not because he is guilty, but because the system might one day treat him the same way it treats political offenders. Sowore's prediction does not stand alone as a personal prophecy of his future. It exposes a deeper issue that many Nigerians have noticed for years, the increasingly political tone of judicial decisions involving activists. And with Nnamdi Kanu's arrest, detention, and now life sentence, that argument has intensified like never before. This tension is shaping a heated political debate, one centered on power, justice, and the future of civic freedom in Nigeria. The sentencing of Nnamdi Kanu. To understand Sowore's criticism, we must revisit the pivotal event that triggered his statement, the sentencing of Nnamdi Kanu on November 20, 2025. Kanu, a figure both loved and hated, has been a major force in Nigerian politics, especially in discussions around self-determination for the southeast. The Federal High Court in Abuja convicted him on 7 terrorism-related charges. These included leading IPOB, operating a paramilitary structure, broadcasting messages alleged to incite violence, and allegedly encouraging attacks against the Nigerian state. The judgment was seen as historic. For the first time, the Nigerian government firmly concluded a terrorism prosecution against a pro-separatist figure of Kanu's stature. The presiding judge stated that the offences were grave enough to attract the death penalty under the Terrorism Prevention Act. However, in what she described as an act of mercy, she sentenced him to life imprisonment instead of death. To many observers, this so-called mercy sentence was symbolic, suggesting that the government was avoiding creating a martyr while still removing a powerful antagonistic voice from the National Front. Almost immediately after the verdict, Kanu's lawyers announced their intention to appeal. They argue that his arrest, extradition, and trial violate both international and national laws, and that the charges are politically motivated. To them, Kanu is not a terrorist. He is a political prisoner whose movement, though controversial, reflects legitimate grievances about governance, marginalization, and failed leadership. Regardless of position, the sentencing marks a new chapter, one that will influence activism, security, law, and political agitation in Nigeria for years to come. However, Sowore did not only react to the sentence, he questioned the entire process. And his criticism goes beyond Kanu's case, it targets the heart of Nigeria's justice system. Sowore's allegations of judicial conspiracy. After the sentencing, Sowore released a statement accusing the federal government of executing what he described as a high-level political conspiracy. According to him, the outcome of Kanu's trial was already decided long before the day of judgment. He claimed that the government did not simply present its case and wait for justice to take its course. Instead, Sowore alleged that the ruling had been predetermined, negotiated behind closed doors, and treated more like a political decision than a legal one. In his words, the sentencing was not a judicial conclusion, it was a government strategy. He argued that the judiciary, instead of acting independently, has been captured by powerful interests who manipulate legal outcomes to serve political goals. Sowore pointed out that recent controversial pardons, such as those involving a convicted drug trafficker and an alleged coup plotter, demonstrate how political convenience often overrides the rule of law. Crimes, he insisted, are forgiven when they align with political loyalty, but activism is punished when it exposes uncomfortable truths. To Sowore, the case of Nnamdi Kanu represents a broader pattern where the government seeks to silence critics. He believes that courts have increasingly become tools for political control. His prediction about potentially receiving a future presidential pardon is not about his personal future. It is a sarcastic commentary on how justice is traded like a commodity in Nigeria, depending on who is involved and what the power structure needs at a particular time. This allegation puts the spotlight on Nigeria's democracy. Is justice about the law, or is it about loyalty to those in power? How many cases are genuine legal processes, and how many are scripted political outcomes? And if activists are tried as criminals, while criminals are eventually treated as political assets, what message does that send about the future of free speech, civic activism, and nationalism? Selective justice and the issue of presidential pardons. One of the central points of Sowore's critique revolves around what he calls selective justice. He points to recent cases where individuals convicted of serious crimes, such as cocaine trafficking or even alleged plots against the government, were granted presidential pardons. In stark contrast, activists and political opponents are often subjected to prolonged trials, harsh sentences, and public scrutiny. Sowore compares his own situation to that of Nnamdi Kanu, highlighting that both are being treated as political threats rather than ordinary citizens accused of crimes. He underscores the inconsistency in the application of justice, where connections, loyalty, and political convenience determine outcomes. According to Sowore, this pattern demonstrates that the federal government strategically manipulates the legal system to punish dissent while rewarding compliance or silence. By framing his own potential pardon in this context, Sowore is not claiming innocence as a given. Rather, he is emphasizing the political nature of such acts of clemency. A presidential pardon, in this framework, is not an act of legal justice. It is a political gesture, administered selectively based on convenience and optics rather than fairness. The implication is clear. The Nigerian legal and political system, in Sowore's view, operates with two sets of rules, one for the connected and one for the outspoken. Current legal status and future implications. As of now, Nnamdi Kanu remains imprisoned under a life sentence, with an appeal pending. His legal team continues to challenge the verdict, and the broader political debate surrounding his case is far from over. Meanwhile, Omoyele Sowore continues to face multiple legal challenges of his own, including an adjourned cyberbullying case and prior treasonable felony charges, some of which were discontinued by the federal government in 2024. Sowore has consistently maintained that these cases are politically motivated, a claim that mirrors the concerns raised regarding Kanu's prosecution. The implications of these developments are profound. If the government continues to apply the law in a selective and politically calculated manner, it risks eroding public confidence in the judiciary and the democratic process. Activists may feel intimidated, freedom of speech may be curtailed, and citizens may begin to perceive the state as an instrument of political control rather than justice. Sowore's prediction about a possible future pardon highlights a chilling paradox. While clemency may appear to be a humane or conciliatory act, it is, in this context, an acknowledgement of the government's selective use of justice. For Nigeria, these cases serve as a test of its democracy. How the government treats dissent, how the courts maintain independence, and how activists like Sowore and Kanu navigate the legal landscape will have lasting effects on civic engagement, political accountability, and the rule of law. The unfolding drama is not merely about two individuals. It is a reflection of the state of Nigerian democracy, the health of its institutions, and the ongoing struggle between authority and activism.